Last one, you've made it. Let's pull together everything we've learned in this series, and I want to show you how I set up for capturing food videos. What's shaking bacon? I'm Joni Simon, food photographer and video creator. Welcome to my studio. This is part 9 in a 9-part series on creating professional videos, the last one. So whether you're a food photographer who wants to add video to your list of skills or a content creator looking to take things up a level, this mini course covers all those essential concepts for building your knowledge. And this also serves as the introductory unit for my Food in Motion course, which is a comprehensive experience for food photographers who want to learn to create captivating videos. So I've got more details all about that linked below. So for the last step to get you up and running, hopefully get you excited and motivated to go make your own videos, I want to show you what it looks like as a setup for a simple recipe video, you know, kind of like the ones where you're filming your hands cooking. And so let's start with the camera, which you can see I have set up here in front of a table with a surface, and I have lots of information about surfaces. I'll link those down below. I'll also link the particulars of this specific surface for you too. Now, as far as where you position your camera relative to where you'll physically be standing, that's all a matter of personal preference, style, vision, storytelling for your video. Now, in this case, I'm going with the traditional overhead view with the camera mounted to the C-stand like we talked about in our prior lesson. Now, next up, you will see I have a light, specifically an LED light, which is a continuous light source, and it has a softbox attached to it to create nice, soft light for my scene. Now, if you don't have artificial lights, you could absolutely set this up next to a window. In this scenario, just imagine that the softbox is a window. Now, if you are looking for specific light recommendations, I do have some options down below, but if you're brand new to artificial lighting, it might serve you well to go through my other free mini course, Pick Your Perfect Light, after you wrap up this one. That takes you on a deep dive of all the different kinds of lights out there and gives you the knowledge to choose the right one for you and your unique needs. Now, the reason I like to use artificial light is because, just like we talked about in the exposure lesson, working with a continuous light source helps ensure the all-important continuity, that as you're making edits to footage, life is going to be a lot easier when the brightness and the color temperature of your light is fixed and doesn't change. Where the sun in the sky, well, it moves through the sky, and as it does, the way that the color, intensity, and shadows look change even just in the course of a few minutes. So yes, natural light is totally workable, totally free, especially if you're aiming for something that looks like what we would call user-generated content, looks much more relatable, which if you spend any amount of time on social media, you know that's absolutely relevant. But if you're looking to create videos that have sort of that polished, professional, dialed-in look, then total control of your light will greatly impact the quality of your work. But now back to your camera, you can see I have a dummy battery here, so no matter how long it takes me to record today, I don't need to think about batteries, which is so nice. And then I have the memory card in there, which is empty and ready to rock. And then I go into the camera's menu options. I'm going to film this in 1080p since I don't intend to do much, if any, cropping to this footage. And then the frame rate, I want something that looks smooth and cinematic. And so do you remember what is the smooth and cinematic frame rate? 24 frames per second. And then because that's my frame rate, what is my shutter speed? What's the 180-degree rule? 1/50th of a second. And so then let's dial in the rest of my camera settings to get a proper exposure. Keeping an eye again on that histogram, I want a wide enough depth of field that my subjects and actions are going to be in focus. And so I'm going to select f7.1. That's going to give me a good bit of room in terms of that depth of field. And then as far as my light, it is as bright as it can go. It's at 100% right now. And this is the Godox SL 150 watt, so 150 watt LED light. But now since my shutter is locked in where it needs to stay, I like where my aperture's at. My light is as bright as it goes. So now the only thing I have left to rely on is my ISO to close that gap here on my histogram. Because you can see here on the right side, I am a bit underexposed. So I'm going to increase the ISO until there you go. We're bright, but again, not off the rails. We're protecting those highlights by not creeping up on the right side of the histogram. And then next, let's go ahead and set our white balance. I'm going to manually dial that in. My light, according to its specs, is 5600 Kelvin. If you are brand new to the concept of white balance, I've got a video for you linked down below. But looking at that 5600 Kelvin compared to what's reality, that actually looks pretty accurate. When it comes to video, I don't recommend using auto white balance because just like we talked about with auto exposure, even if my light stays the same, everything stays the same, depending on what enters the frame and shifts happen in the environment, that can cause the camera to shift the white balance and create an inconsistent look across my video. So I do like to work with a fixed white balance setting and ensure continuity throughout my video. But one little trick is that I can pop it temporarily into auto white balance just to see the visual difference between the 5600 Kelvin setting and the auto white balance setting. They look very similar, so I'm gonna stick with 5600 Kelvin. If the auto white balance did look wildly off or slightly off, then I would go back into those Kelvin settings and either adjust it warmer or adjust it cooler depending. Now, admittedly, there are more advanced and more precise methods for dialing in white balance beyond just spot checking like we did here. And we get into that in depth inside of Food in Motion if you decide to join us there. So we've got our exposure locked, white balance locked, cameras in position, recording settings set. I can see my scene, ingredients are prepped. Now all I have to do is hit the record button and I'm off to make a video. Now, obviously we have covered a ton of information in a short period of time, and the topic of video as a whole is incredibly dense. My hope is that this has set a nice firm foundation, a good starting place to jump off, a lot of directions to run in, and my biggest hope is that this has got you excited to get behind the camera and start making videos. That is going to be your best training ground, is experimenting and putting these things into play and getting curious. But now there might also be a chance that you're feeling a little overwhelmed or a lot overwhelmed. That's understandable as well. Either way, the next step is just to record a video. Just rip off the Band-Aid and do it, and know that it's not gonna be perfect. My first videos weren't perfect. My videos still aren't perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect video. So the best next move is just to start. You have literally nothing to lose. And when you do create that first video, I wanna see it. Come join us over in the Bite Shop community. I've got that link down below. It's a free community. We'd love to see your work, root you on, and share in this journey of video creation. So with that, to wrap us up in the very official manner that we do around here, thank you so much for stopping by the studio. I hope you have a fantastic day. You stay out of trouble, and I'll see you soon, okay? Bye.